15-year-old Grandmaster Christopher Yoo woke up this morning for his round at the US Chess Championships, taking on a Super Grandmaster, and said, you know what? I am going to transform one of the most boring, dry, overstudied lines in chess in the Berlin variation in the Ruy Lopez, take that and make it into a very, very exciting gambit, almost brand new, and let's waste no time getting to the game. So this is I believe round 12 at the US Chess Championships. We have Christopher Yoo with the white pieces pictured to the bottom right of me, and Ray Robson with the black pieces. Newly minted Super Grandmaster Ray Robson, who actually cracked 2700 for the first time after being near that mark during this tournament. And so we have the Ruy Lopez variation, which is like the most common line to see at the top level. And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the state of opening theory in top level chess. Is it stale? Is it not? And I'm very, very, very excited for that discussion. But let's waste no time getting right to this game. So it's the Berlin variation, and in this position, there's really two key moves for white. It's d4 and rook to e1. So d4 is the main line, and it's notable because black really can't take this pawn with rook to e1 and just too much pressure on these pins. If black defends the knight, there's knight takes d4, then f3 is coming, issues here. So black can't play like this. But the key move here is knight to d6, attacking the bishop. So bishop takes, trade, d takes, and this endgame has been studied and studied and studied and studied to death, basically. This has occurred many, many times. And there's one other line, which is rook to e1, attacking the knight to d6, and knight takes pawn here. So this is what happened in the game. And so this bishop is attacked, but of course it cannot be captured right now because this is check and the queen is hanging. So the line continues, bishop to e7, your bishop's attacked, and Christopher got it all the way out of the way by bringing the bishop all the way back, not to e2, not to d3, where it's kind of blocking things. But we kind of just reached this normal position. Ray Robson trades knights and castles. And so this position is very, very dry. I wasn't joking. This has occurred many, many times. And so d4, bishop to f6. This is all very, very standard stuff. And we're all at the edge of our seat as to whether Chris is going to go rook e2 or rook e1. It's very drawish anyway. Knight f5, attacking this pawn. Okay, like c3, d5. Again, this has occurred many, many times. White like ekes out like a plus 0.2 advantage out of the opening, if that, and more likely than not, the game just fizzles out to a draw. Symmetrical pawn structures, both kings are safe. There's really not much to speak about in this position. However, with thousands of games in this position, there are like 20 something with the move bishop to d3. Bishop to d3 by Chris. And this is very interesting. So we're just not defending the rook. So here's the issue for black, right? If you don't take this rook, what are you going to do? Because so your development of playing knight f5, d5, and continuing to free your pieces kind of relied upon you being able to play knight f5. And otherwise, this knight is in a very awkward square, just blocking everything. And if rook to e8, bishop to f4. And again, you're gonna probably just have to take that rook one way or the other. So in the game, bishop takes, pawn takes, and this is very, very interesting exchange sacrifice because this bishop is matched very, very well against this knight to cover all these squares. So the knight must go back all the way to e8, knight to c3, just simply developing a piece. And I mean, how else do you bust out for black? You have all your pieces here on the back rank, pawn d6, queen to h5. Queen to h5, immediately making a checkmate threat. So d6, I mean, made a lot of sense. Of course, you want to make that trade, get that piece out, get the light square bishop out. But now Chris is immediately attacking h7. If you play pawn to h6, good night. Bishop takes h6 is another great, great sacrifice. And takes, queen takes, and probably unstoppable mate coming on h7. So g6 is forced. And then queen to h6 by Chris. And here, you can actually see the times. Chris has actually gained 6 minutes. This is a 30-second increment. So to gain 6 minutes, you would have had to spend a total of 60 seconds on all of your moves to this point. Right, you've played 14 moves, so you gain 7 minutes if that. So Chris is rattling off theory. This is very, very good preparation. Ray Robson really did not have many decisions to make in this game. As you said, you really have to take the rook. You really have to play d6. Here, takes his first big think and plays queen to e7. And you'll see even more time comes off his clocks. But this position is not entirely new. It's not an entirely new gambit. So I do want to show you something actually in this position. So I said there were thousands and thousands of games. These are the stats. These are the stats of that line. I found 12 games in the whole database That looks like 9 wins for white and 3 draws. And 0 losses. So these are very, very good stats with this line. It's a great gambit to find. But the reason why I think it's innovative and why I have the Yoo Gambit in top of my head is because it has yet to be played in classical. So you saw there a Karjakin win and another nice win. And I'll show right now. This was Sergei Karjakin's win over Topalov. It was a blitz game, and we had the same line here. So Leachus actually gives a question mark for this. We have the same line here. And here, d takes e5. So this was the critical decision that Robson is facing right now. But d takes e5 was played in the game by Topalov, and it's not obvious why that move should lose. But bishop to g5 hits the queen. And now the issue is, if you play pawn to f6, check, and it's not obvious, but your rook's not defended. So if you go king over, you lose your rook. That's game over. Bishop e6, you just take that. Rook f7, you can take that, take this. I mean, the game's ending. You have rook d1 as well, tempo on the queen. So bishop to c4 checks killer. In the game, just queen d7, right? But now knight e4, and now the knight's just coming right in there. So how do you stop? So if it's white's move again, check and take, and now checkmate is unstoppable. So how do you stop that? Well, you have to play f6 again to use your rook, but same issue. Check, and you lose. If the king comes over, that rook is hanging. So in the game, rook f7, but now a very nice finish by Karjakin, which is knight takes f6. So just an 18-move victory over Topalov, one of the better chess players ever. Knight takes f6 check, take, and queen g7, just using this pin. Very, very nice. And queen g7, an unstoppable mate threat. So just Karjakin just absolutely wrecked Topalov in this game. And this is another game, Hovhannisyan with the white pieces. This is a rapid game where his opponent, also a grandmaster, played d takes e5, bishop to g5, queen d4. So you see this gets a question mark because queen d4 is actually doing better than queen d7. Because so knight e4 would not work the same way, because now f6, there's no bishop to c4 check. That was one of the key resources in the Yoo Gambit. Is to be able to play bishop to c4 check against f6. However, queen d7 did something that queen d4 did not, which was stop bishop to e7. This knight is misplaced in every sense of the word. It's just now blocking in the rook, and that's checkmate. That's checkmate. Not easy to get out of knight g7, so at least it stops this capture. However, now knight to e4, and the knight is just waltzing into f6. If you play pawn to f5, at least the rook now guards f6, but knight g5, and that's going to be checkmate. So black's pieces are just in no way, shape, or form able to defend the black king from the oncoming threats of these pieces just doing an excellent job, and these pieces are just stuck on the back rank. So d takes e5, a lot of people are playing it, even like top level GMs, but they just get smashed off the board right away. So that's the first nasty trap that Chris Yoo sets for Ray Robson in this game. However, this is a classical game. Ray Robson, newly minted super grandmaster, finds the one move, queen to e7. Queen to e7 is a very good move. So now the point is you want to take this pawn with the queen. If you're hit, you want to take it with the queen. And if the queen comes back to g7, then it probably is a good defender, or at least you're not getting checkmated right away. So that's a good move by Ray Robson. So queen e7, Chris Yoo says, no matter, takes, you see again, he's like gaining 30 seconds. Knight takes d6. So it looks like, you're able to get out your pieces. But now bishop to g5. And you're facing another key decision if you're Ray Robson here, is what do you do with this queen? So in the game, Ray Robson thought for a while and played this move, pawn to f6. But so there's some key questions here. So if you just go queen over and lose contact with the f6 square, then that's very bad, because bishop to f6 and queen to g7 checkmate is, I think, coming very soon. Knight e8, knight e4 would defend that bishop, and then also threaten knight to g5 at some moment for some checkmate here, I believe. Or here, knight to d5 is even stronger. So you cannot lose contact with the f6 square if you're black in this line. If queen to e6 or queen to e5, these were also possible. Queen to e5, they'd often transpose, actually, because one of the key things that Yoo wants to play here is this move bishop to d2. And so this was an option for Robson, kind of just continue playing chess with that exchange. He has a rook for a bishop, and kind of just continue defending here. Like he's not lost immediately by any means. He didn't fall for that main trap of playing pawn takes e5. But the point of bishop to d2 is, so now if you play a move like bishop to d7, this is why it's hard to play. Rook to e1. bishop to d2 was the idea was to get that rook in into the game. It's really the last piece. And after queen g4 and d5, again, we took the queen off of that f6 square, and black is immediately lost once again. If they bring their pawn up here to try to guard against this, now rook to e7 and too many checkmate threats, and here I believe they will lose. For example, rook f7, knight takes f6, another fork, all sorts of tactics here, all sorts of tactics. So a very tricky position to defend, a very tricky position to defend. Bishop to d7 doesn't do it. I believe the engine likes a move like rook to e8, so that rook to e1 can be met by a queen sacrifice and playing out some position like this. So this would have been interesting, but Ray Robson finds a way to just say, you know what, I'm playing 130 points down, but I've had enough. I would like to get into a drawn endgame, please. So he plays this move pawn to f6, and why does that lead to a drawn endgame? Well, if the bishop just retreats, now the queen has this resource queen g7. And this bishop can develop bishop f5, and so here black's probably doing a little bit better. So Yoo jumps in knight d5. Again, you can see clearly still in prep. He's 6 minutes above what he started still. Queen over. And so Ray Robson breathes a sigh of relief because he's able to swap the queens off the board. And if you're ever defending, trading queens is a very good thing to do. It's very hard to attack a king if you don't have queens on the board. However, there was a key point to knight d5, which was that it ends with knight takes c7. There's no queen to defend the 7th rank anymore. So Ray has certainly survived the middle game here. However, it's key not to play rook to b8, actually. If you play rook to b8, then this bishop backs up to f4 and hits this knight and has some other nice targets on the other side of that. So I believe this position is no fun at all. For example, so this knight moves away, there's this move check, and takes over here, and here white is just ahead of pawn. If you play rook to d8, then that's not going to help you, because after you trade here, knight to e8, taking the rook, a very nice fork on the back of the board there. So Robson, very, very strong player, did not fall for that either. Spent a few minutes, decided to take the bishop instead of saving the rook. So after it takes the rook, we arrive at an interesting endgame, where Yoo is a pawn ahead, however has his knight buried on a8. And so one option Robson has here is to play this move rook to f7, because it cuts off c7. And so now if Chris does nothing, let's say h3 and like b6 and just like nothing, then you would lose that knight. So you can't do nothing, you have to do something. And he has the resource rook to d1. So activating that rook, which had yet to be active. And so now this rook can attack the knight. And so now the knight moves, and then this rook can come down and help protect this knight and save it. So this was playable by Robson, but it would not have won the knight outright. So he just opts for the quick development with bishop to f5, attacking that knight. Knight to c7, and so now Robson actually is the one playing the gambit because he's down a pawn and actually probably has the better pieces at this point. Rook c8, hitting the knight one more time to get on a nice open file that he can use because he trades and brings rook to c2. And now you could play the move rook to b1. However, Robson's pieces would be very active and would continue taking pawns. And so a pawn up, he decides to now go a pawn down. And so one side's gambiting, then the other side's gambiting, and Yoo takes the gambit back by playing g4. So why would you play g4? Well, it's kind of a useful move in terms of like fixing some pawns over here and taking away knight f5. But moreover, it's going to free this rook so that this king doesn't get back rank checkmated. It has the g2 square. So Robson starts eating pawns, rook to e1, eats another pawn, rook to e7 check. So here, Yoo's actually down a pawn. However, you have to be very, very careful if you're black here, getting out of check. So if you recommend a move like king to h8 or king to h6, I believe after knight to f6, that is checkmate. So that is one more nasty, nasty trap that Yoo is setting. And king to g8 is the other move that would hang on to h7, but knight to f6, check, and so that's, I mean, king to f8, like this is playable, but you can also just go to f8 directly. So rook to d7, attacking the knight, trying to make it move so you can eat this one, rook to a6. So black does have like two connected passed pawns here, but so let's say like knight to f6 by Christopher Yoo in this position. So knight takes h7 check, knight takes g5, and so here you're probably eating a lot if you're white. And now you're like it's gone back and forth, but now you're down material and your pieces are the ones that are active and making all the threats. It's much better to have the pieces that are active and being in control of the game. So I think that's kind of the takeaway here. And so Robson realizes this, doesn't want his pieces tied down, just plays knight to f7, so that after takes, his rook is free to go try to eat pawns. And so now finally they both trade pawns, and we get a completely drawn position with rook and knight and 3 pawns versus rook and knight and 3 pawns, and they just give some checks and repeat 3 moves to draw the game. So with a massive time lead for Chris over Ray Robson in this game. So this is a super duper interesting gambit with this move bishop to d3. Chris brave enough to try this in a classical game. But I say brave enough, but I think this is a genuinely very strong gambit. Like, Robson really found like pretty much the best defenses over the board, at least from a practical point of view. Like, he did have that option to play here, like this move queen to e6, which the engine slightly prefers, but again, you have to defend a not fun position at all here if you're black, with rook to e1 coming, and just good compensation for white in general for this exchange. So lots of traps laid here, and I mean, Awonder, for good reason, Awonder Lang, my friend, for very good reason, has gotten the attention in this tournament for playing exciting openings. He played the Scotch Gambit against Hovhannisyan and won. He played the Kolmov Gambit, as I covered in one of my more recent videos, against he played the Kolmov Gambit against Fabiano Caruana and drew. So that's been very fun. But Christopher Yoo has also been playing some very interesting openings. In round 1, notably, he played the Jobava London against Hans, who had made a chessable course on the Jobava London. So let's just show what I'm talking about here. d4, knight f6, knight c3, and bishop to f4. So this line, which is pretty interesting variation, and you know you don't often see it at the top level. At the top level of chess, you very often only see like a handful of openings. It's like, I think the conventional wisdom had basically been like there's like 6 openings that are like super duper good, and that like you know that are super solid and been studied to death, and that are playable at a very high level of chess. Like, the higher level you go in chess, the fewer and fewer openings that you're able to play. But I think now with Awonder and with Christopher Yoo as well, we're seeing like kind of a new generation of players being like, well, what if I just play something exciting? What if I just play something that you haven't studied so much, and I pose you a lot of challenges over the board? Right? I don't want to play into your preparation. I'll play something, even if it's a little bit dubious, to make you have a difficult time over the board, to get you out of preparation, to make you uncomfortable. And so, like, in this other game against Jeffrey Zhang, Christopher Yoo, actually in this position, I think like conventional wisdom tells you, okay, top level at chess, you face a Karjakin, you have to either play knight c3 or you have to either play the advance. But Christopher Yoo plays the fantasy variation with pawn to f3, which is and Zhang immediately like plays this very rare move, queen to b6. So I guess Jeffrey Zhang would be part of that new generation where you can't shock them with anything. But so trade over here in e5 is kind of leads to some interesting lines in the fantasy variation of the Karjakin. But that's probably another video. And against Dominguez, he plays the Scandinavian, Christopher Yoo does. So that was another interesting choice. And the Scotch Gambit, he also played against Hovhannisyan. In addition to Awonder's choice for the Scotch Gambit, Christopher Yoo also played this opening and played e5 in this position. So super duper interesting stuff. I think the future of chess looks good, looks pretty exciting. I think the idea that maybe it's been stale, I think in the other generation of players, there's certainly some very exciting games, some very exciting players, certainly all the time. But I'm liking the more variety that we're seeing at the top level, and I'm liking that I'm able to cover content like this. So Christopher Yoo, Awonder, all their top level chess players, Gambit on. This is awesome, and have a great day.